Well, let's just start with back to school.
You got it.
Launch into what people can expect this year.
We got a few changes. One, I mean, we're obviously excited to get the 21-22 school year started. Excited that we're going to be able to start pretty normal to what people are used to as far as school goes. It was kind of refreshing this fall in admin meetings and things like that, not to be having to discuss what's our hybrid schedule going to look like and our remote day schedule and all those kinds of things. I mean, we're making plans to start as normal as we can. High school wise, we're got a few changes. We are going to stay with the 4-period semester block schedule. So it's a schedule we've done in the past, but we did it last year because COVID kind of forced that a little bit, and it worked for us. So we're going to go back, continue that for kids. So kids will be enrolled in classes and take 4 classes in the fall and 4 different classes in the spring. If we're going back to that, our school start time is going to be a little different at the high school. School's going to start at 8:15 and we'll end at 3:45 this year. We had to make that schedule change to accommodate bus routes, but I think that's, the research kind of says high school kids do better if they start a little bit later, so that it helps a little bit. So that's going to be something that's different. But other than that, I mean, a lot of what school will look like this year hopefully will be familiar to what a regular school year looks like.
So when's the first day of school?
First day of school is September 7th. It's that Tuesday after Labor Day. That's been our tradition in this community, and so kids report at 8:15 on the 7th of September.
Are extracurriculars already rolling right now as far as sports go?
Yeah. So I would say, last year we were pretty fortunate. We were able to have every one of our sports seasons. The seasons might have been a little different, and they were condensed and shortened, and there were some different rules that went with it. And we were fortunate for the kids last year. They were every sports season we were able to have. So this year sports are back on a regular schedule. So our fall sports are already underway. Golf and cross country, volleyball, boys soccer, football, cheerleading. All those sports are already started.
Is it too late for people who are wanting to join those activities to join?
Right. So, a lot of those are a sport by sport situation. Some of them, volleyball, it gets problematic because they've had their tryouts and had to make some cuts and things like that, unfortunately. So that might be kind of hard for kids to start that late. But I encourage kids, if they're interested, definitely visit with us and visit with those coaches and see if they can still get started.
How are the teams looking so far this year?
Well, we've had some scrimmages, and volleyball already had their first game, and they had a really great win against Durango. It was a lot of fun. I think it's always this time of year trying to predict how well our teams are going to do is kind of tough, but the biggest thing for us is we've got those things going. We've got kids back on our campus, kids in our building, kids on our fields participating, and that's the thing that we're really looking forward to the most. Sports kick off, the competitions kick off kind of full-fledged this week and next week, and then we'll maybe be able to put a little litmus test to what we can expect this season. The last 2 years we haven't been able to have our spring musical. It got canceled in 2020 because we ended up having to go full remote. That's when the pandemic kind of hit us. We weren't able to do it last year, so unfortunately those students haven't been able to be in the auditorium and perform. I'm hopeful. I'm very, very hopeful that this spring we can make that happen, that we can do a spring musical and do some performances. Last year there were all of our performances, band, choir, they had to do kind of individual things. We were fortunate enough at the end of last school year, as things got a little bit better, we did Americana, was able to do a couple concerts outside. The guitar class kind of joined them. But as far as our regular band, choir, spring musical, at this point I'm hopeful that we're going to have those kids performing again, and we'll have hopefully guests back in the auditorium watching those kids perform.
What's new at Pagosa Springs High School?
What's new at Pagosa Springs High School?
I'm curious to know, I guess, about these buildings.
Oh, well, I mean, on the campus, we did, over the summer, we were able to put in a building for San Juan Mountain School. It's an alternative high school that the district brought on board. Last year was their first year. So it gives students another opportunity to earn a diploma in our district. So that the new building that you see on the north side of the parking lot is San Juan Mountain School. We're excited to have that. Stuart Bellina is the principal of that program and just did a phenomenal job last year with the kids. And I'm excited to have that opportunity for kids to meet the needs of more students in our district.
How many kids does that program help out?
Currently, right now, the enrollment's about 50 kids, and we have to kind of monitor that a little bit just size of space and things like that. But that, we were able to bring on 20 more kids in our district that graduated from Archuleta County School District last year, which I think was phenomenal.
Absolutely. That's 20 kids. They've just changed 20 lives.
Yep, for sure. It's important.
How has COVID and online learning impacted in-person attendance over the last year at Pagosa Springs High School?
Sure. So last year, we offered kids an online option. And we had about 75 students that took that option last year. Kind of a mixed bag of results. The online education's a tricky one. It's important there. It does absolutely, there are students that absolutely flourish and it's the right thing for them educationally, but it's not right for everyone. Obviously we needed to have that option for students and families, for safety and what they were comfortable with. But I would say that not all students were successful in that. We are still offering an online option this year, but we have a much lower number of families that are choosing to take that option.
Bird's eye view, when you're looking at the success rates, do in-person attendees perform better or end up with better results than online learning as a whole?
I would say for us, from just what we watched last year and a little bit of what we know about online education and kind of what I said before about it being right for some kids but not for all. I think kids definitely do better when they're in person. One of the things we talk about as a staff is, in person, we better control the learning environment. So, as far as engagement and being able to interact with your peers and your teacher, that's a different experience when it's in person versus online where, we had to do some remote days last year, the quarantines and things like that. We had to do that. And the number of kids that would join a Zoom and they're still laying in their bed and, that's not the best learning environment for students.
And there's a social aspect to this as well. I think that there's been some mental health impact to the generation of COVID students. They were robbed of a year being around their peers. I think that's rough on the human psyche, this isolation that we've gone through. So I think, yes, in-person learning by itself, I still believe in in-person learning. I wouldn't want to have my high school years spent in class from my bed.
Yes.
I enjoyed being around people.
Yeah. No, the social interaction it's hard to put a value on, but to me it's priceless. That interaction between peers, interactions with adults, just the things you learn socially. Even last year in person, there was so many things that make school, some of the social fun things that you do at school, we weren't able to do last year. So even in person, school was almost stripped down to nothing but schoolwork. We really had to limit a lot of things last year, and we're hoping that we can bring some of that stuff back. Some of the things that make school memorable.
I would like to get somewhat specific on what didn't happen last year because of COVID. I know we talked about drama having an impact. What else, what else did you have to limit, I guess?
Sure. So we had to limit, obviously, when you have capacity limits, you can only have a certain number of kids in a space. So really no assemblies, homecoming. We have a few different pep rallies and fun things you do throughout the year that we just couldn't do. You would do some dress up days, but there was really nothing. Kids had a little bit of fun with that, but it's just not the same. Limiting kids in the hallways. We had to have, separate lunches to minimize, numbers of kids in the cafeteria. So then, friend groups and things like that. It was kind of hard to.
What about prom, homecoming, things like that?
Yep. We were able at the end of the year we did do prom, but we limited it to juniors and seniors only. So that was the only dance that we were able to do last year. So those kinds of things were eliminated. Through our advisory program that we've had for 8 years now, there's a lot of activities that we do. One, for character development and social emotional development and things like that, teamwork. A lot of those activities we couldn't do. We had to really scale that back and try to do things as individual classes, and you couldn't do school-wide things that make the program special.
All the special things that you definitely remember when you leave high school.
Right.
I want kids to have that.
Yeah, and I would ask you this: if when you think back to high school, you think about the things you remember the most. I bet you probably don't remember what you learned in English class on Wednesday. Those are important skills, but there's a lot of things that high school experience that stick with you forever. And unfortunately, some of those things the kids last year didn't get to have.
What, if anything, will change this year in response?
Well, right now, because we're in a better place, we're hoping to start the school year off. Hopefully, homecoming will happen. I'm hopeful for all those things, the pep rally and the fun that goes with that. Homecoming dance. Our student council's planning a back to school dance right now. That'll be outside. I feel like we can do that safely. And this is gonna be a year. We've still got to monitor how things are going, and a lot of it's going to depend on, what our mandates look like from other agencies and what our numbers look like in our community. We obviously want to try to keep kids safe because we want to try to fight to keep kids in-person learning this year and not have to go back to remote and hybrid and some of the things that we had to deal with in the past. So, it could be a week-to-week, month-to-month thing, but right now the goal is to try to get things as normal as we possibly can.
I'm going to, because Durango has had their schools put a mask mandate.
Yep.
And Pagosa, as of right now, there's not a mask mandate.
Right.
You're saying from week to week this might change. Who advises that decision? I know that the school makes the decision.
Right.
Who advises that? You guys aren't just talking amongst yourselves. You're getting professionals involved. You mentioned San Juan Basin Public Health. Talk on that for a minute.
Yeah, so we have to monitor the situation, and we also have to monitor the recommendations that are given to us from Colorado Department of Public Health, the Colorado Department of Education, the CDC. Obviously, San Juan Basin Public Health is our health agency in this area. So we've got to monitor obviously the situation, the recommendations from them. Currently, the approach is recommending, not requiring mask wearing. So obviously we're going to recommend, especially those that aren't vaccinated, to wear masks, but yet not required. It's recommended. The district did a couple weeks ago do a survey out to staff and parents to ask them kind of what their feeling was on this, and overwhelmingly 80% of the respondents felt like would prefer that parents decide whether their child wears a mask at school. So as long as we're still operating under this where it's recommended and not required, with the will of that survey anyway, kind of says let's leave that choice up to families and what's right for us. So at this point, how we're starting the school year, that masks are recommended, not required. One thing that is a little bit different, because it is, masks are still going to be required to be worn on buses, because that's a federal mandate, because it's mass transit. So there's a federal mandate that comes down for buses. So students riding our buses, kids that are traveling to games, there's still going to be a mask requirement on the buses, but that's the only place where we're requiring it at this time.
Where can people find more information about school happenings?
Well, there's a number of places. Obviously, our school website, the district website, school website, mypagosaschools.com is the district website. That's a great place to get information. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram.
And pagosaathletics.com.
Yeah, pagosaathletics.com. And you can get to pagosaathletics.com from our school website.
Do you have a message to the public?
I guess my biggest thing is on behalf of the staff at Pagosa Springs High School, and really the whole district, we're so excited to be welcoming kids back into our schools this year, and we're really looking forward to a great year, and trying to recover a bit from last year. We saw how important, I think we really saw the importance of in-person learning last year. The importance of having our classrooms open and having our students in the building, interacting with each other, interacting with their teachers. And we are so looking forward to starting school that way. And we, hopeful that we can keep kids in school in that in-person fashion, and, encourage, families to help us out. If students aren't feeling well, have them stay home, encourage them to get tested. I'm really hopeful that this is going to be one of our best school years yet.
And we're going to wish that it is as well. 2021 is, I think we're going to get our heads above the water this year. Go Pirates.
Yeah, go Pirates. Oh, and one thing I should probably say about sports, I would just say, last year we had to limit capacity. We had to do tickets and things like that, so that, the events weren't open to general public last year because of capacity limits and rules we had. At this point, our sporting events are open. We don't have the capacity mandates at this point. So football games, people are welcome to attend. Our volleyball games, people are welcome to attend. Obviously, cross country and in golf, people are welcome to attend. Boys soccer, and hoping that kind of stays that way this year. That it's just open to anyone who wants to come watch. If that should change, we'll make sure we communicate that out. Through our channels, through KWUF, through newspaper. And we'll try to get that out if those things change. But at this point, love to have you come watch our kids competing.